Tonight I am making some canvas panels. I went to see my friend Bob today and he has a table saw, and we cut some masonite boards into small pieces. Sanded one side roughly so that it'll adhere a little bit better. And I'm getting down to the bottom of my roll of canvas. Excuse me, I'm still getting more cold. And I've got scraps left, so I'm going to mount this scrap onto that board using this wonderful adhesive called Miracle Muck. It works really well. It's easy to use. I've poured a little bit into a container here, just using a disposable sponge to apply it. And I spread it carefully, making sure I get right to the edges, because if any part is going to lift up, it'll be right on the edge. So I go right to the edges, but you don't want too much on, because you want to be able to cut the edges nice and firmly without having to cut through glue. So just a smooth coat. This one happens to be 6 by 8. It's nice to have little panels on hand for small paintings and little daily paintings or quick studies, and to use up your scraps. So now I simply put the canvas on, lining it up as squarely as I can with the grain. This piece is quite big. It just happened to be a piece that I had here. Often I cut them just barely bigger than the board. And I press around, making sure it's well pressed at the edges. And then I will just put a weight on top, which happens to be my stash of cookbooks. And that will weigh it down. I'll leave it overnight, and then I will trim the edges carefully using my quilting ruler and this little quilting trimmer, little knife that I use for trimming. But you could use a pair of scissors or an X-Acto knife as well. And those are my little panels. So you could save a lot of money making them this way. You use up the scraps of the canvas. This way I get the canvas I like. And if you can't, if you don't have a friend with a table saw, you can buy the little boards. A lot cheaper than buying the pre-made canvas panels. My canvas has had a chance to dry overnight. I adhered it to the board last night and then pressed it with books. And so now I can cut the edge flush to the edge of the board. So I'm using a self-healing mat here. This is available at a quilting store or fabric store. They're pricey, but you can often find them on sale. And this is the ruler I use, again from the same kind of store, and the cutter. And you can use X-Acto knife if you need to, an ordinary ruler, but this just makes it really easy. So I lay my ruler along the edge, being really careful that it perfectly matches the edge of my board, because this blade is sharp enough that it will cut the board itself. Now I pull back the cover. There's a safety cover. Just pull that back and then go ahead and cut. And that just takes the edge off. As I mentioned, this has got quite a lot of extra canvas on it because that was the size of the piece that I had left over. But you really don't need much extra. I'm just working my way around. This is a 6 by 8 inch board, and in the stores where I go for a linen one like this, I have to pay about $13. But I can make these for about $2 each. Press the safety cover back, and then I can double check, and I see here I've got a little bit of extra, so I'll trim that off yet. It's very easy to get the ruler not quite on the edge, but it's equally easy to fix what you've done if it's not quite right. And that should solve it. Yep, takes a little bit off, and there's my board, perfectly adhered.